Молодец! Правильно сделал, блядь. Молодец. Красава вообще.
We have 2 good engine starts. You're clear to disconnect the headset. We'll see you on the left with the pin. Thanks a lot. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video. In this one, we'll be analyzing potentially one of the most bizarre and crazy instances of aircraft gone rogue and a pilot doing an incredible job of taming the beast and not ejecting, coming back for a safe landing. And the whole thing is spectacular, absolutely spectacular. This actually happened back in 2013, I believe, might have been 2015, depends on the source. The video for this has actually only surfaced this month, both the external sort of camera footage where you see the aircraft coming in last moment and deploying the chute before touchdown, and also the HUD tape, which I've stumbled across. It was uploaded about a week ago. So it's all in Russian, but I've annotated it and I'm going to try and translate it as far as possible and try and give you guys an idea of what's happening here, because there's some very good comms between the pilot and the ground controller is having somebody help him with either manuals, checklists, something, whether it's another pilot, an engineer, I'm not entirely sure. But nonetheless, very interesting to see. So just to give you a very brief idea of what's actually happened here, this is Komsomolsk na Amur. This is the city in the far east of Russia. There's an airbase here in the very middle. And they build Su-35s here. It's a factory right to the south of the airfield. But they also have a squadron of Su-35s based there as well. We don't know whether or not it was a squadron airplane or a factory aircraft that's just left the factory. Maybe it was getting a test flight of some sort. We're not sure. Either way, the pilot takes off. He's heading northbound, runway 36. He takes off immediately as he puts the gear up. He's got crazy flight control issues. Basically, the aircraft just wants to pitch up abruptly. So he arrests that by doing a loaded roll, trying to keep it somewhere around the horizon. And then he puts it into sort of left bank and starts doing a lot of turns to the left. Some of them, it looks like there's quite a lot of G in the airplane. Some of them are a little bit more gentle, but as soon as he rolls out, the aircraft just pitches up abruptly. So his way of controlling the lift vector is to point it sort of in a horizontal way and keep the aircraft around the horizon that way. At the same time, the auto throttle plays up. He always wants to put power on. Obviously, he disconnects everything, but nonetheless, the aircraft is wanting to put all that power on. There's no indications of any failures coming up at any point. So the whole thing is a bit, one of these program system errors that are just really difficult to diagnose. And this is what happens with modern aircraft flight control systems. Su-35, as you guys know, is statically, longitudinally unstable, so it's got a flight control system to help the pilot. Now, I believe the pilot can override the system and take manual control, but it is very difficult to fly. So anyway, he takes off and he ends up doing a whole bunch of these left turns around the river. And then eventually he manages to come in whilst continuing his left turns and times it perfectly so that he rolls out right at the threshold of the runway, pulls the chute, slaps it onto the ground. So let's play the tape and see what actually happens. So his call sign is 323. This was number 324 replying to the air traffic controller. I guess he's maybe the lead or maybe a completely unrelated aircraft, but he just took off before number 323 that's starting the takeoff roll now. At this point, everything is absolutely normal. So you just heard Rita there, that's the Russian version of bitching Betty, and she gives out any sort of warnings, etc. Sometimes fairly normal messages as well, so in that case it was monitor the HUD display, but there is no failures or anything coming up at this point. So he's just taken off, he's put the gear up, and at this point the aircraft pitches up abruptly. Now this is where he starts getting all sorts of flight control issues, so he basically does a sort of loaded roll all the way around to try and keep it around the horizon. So he's putting his lift vector more or less horizontally, turning that pitch into a turn. So now he seems to have stabilized, and he's telling the controller that he has flight control issues at this point. So he's saying he's got an uncontrollable pitch-up moment. So it's just the aircraft is just doing it on its own. He's also saying the auto throttles are adjusting themselves and are putting power on, that he mentions later on in the video, but he has no control. Obviously he's tried to disconnect everything and the airplane is just going a bit rogue. So there, at that point again, the aircraft pitches up abruptly. He's putting it into a left bank. So he's saying things are not too bad when he's in a turn. There's no failures showing. You could see that in the top right hand side of the screen if there was any. So he's saying he's going to try and take it out of the bank, take it out of the turn. So again, he had about a couple of seconds level flight, and then basically the failure just repeats itself. He's restarted the APU, and apparently that didn't help as well. So at this point he's saying the stick is all the way forward, and still the aircraft is wanting to pull back. And he's actually got quite a bit of G on the airplane here at the moment. At this point he starts taking the bank angle out just to see if he can get it back to level flight, perhaps get it to fly straight and level. He's actually got a slight bank angle to see if there is any improvement, but then as you can see the aircraft just gets back into its normal pitch-up state. He's asking whether or not he should put the flight control system into the backup mode. So he's actually saying he will do it now. He'll just put it into backup. The controllers just confirmed that, said okay. So here you'll see there was a failure. It came up very quickly. He did disconnect it. He put it into backup mode. And now the aircraft seems to have aggravated its pitch-up moment as a result. So he's getting a little bit frustrated, as you might imagine, in this situation. Just trying to take it out of the turn. So as soon as he went level, same problem. And now he's saying it's not controllable. So he's getting a little bit frustrated now. At this point he's a bit of an uncontrollable state. I think they've cut out a little bit of the HUD portion here, potentially to not give away too much information. I think at a later point in the video he makes reference to a flat spin. So I don't know if a flat spin did develop, but to me it looks like sort of an inverted spiral dive at here at one point. So nonetheless, I mean, looks pretty crazy. Still not ejecting, still not accepting defeat. It's really quite impressive. So it looks like he's recovered. The controller's asking him if the aircraft's uncontrollable. He seems to have recovered it though. He is complaining still about the auto throttles constantly wanting to move, even though he's obviously disconnected the system. So he's taken the flight control system into backup mode, clearly not helped. So the controller is telling him to overpower the auto throttles, which he's saying that he's done that obviously. I'm not a big fan of the fact this controller is getting a little bit aggravated. I think in his position I'd want to be a little bit more helpful. So the pilot has actually got a little bit of a brainwave here. He says that he's realized that the problems have started to occur as soon as he's retracted the landing gear. So he's now saying he'll try and extend the landing gear, which is what you see now on the right hand side. You see the gear and the flaps are down. The controllers made sure he's below 530 kilometers an hour, which I guess is the limiting speed. So now the pilot's saying that it looks like it is controllable. So he's confirmed that the gear is down, and it looks like the aircraft's controllable. 4 tons of fuel left. So he's now being told to come in for landing. The airfield is just off to the right from here, I believe. So he's starting a slight right turn to get back to base. Wind is 120 at 4 meters a second, about 7 knots. That's not much to worry about, I guess, either way for an Su-35. So I guess he's still experiencing some control issues here, even though he's straight and level. He's clearly feeling that the stick is not responding to the way it should. So he's feeling the airplane is wanting to pitch up again. So it's about 10 kilometers from the field. Nope. And looks like the aircraft is gone back to its rogue state, constantly wanting to pitch up every time the aircraft is straight and level. So back to square one. The pilot's still complaining about the auto throttles, constantly wanted to come up. In a bank, it seems like there is some control of the aircraft. So the controller is telling him about some sort of fuel-related switch to put in the middle position, which he says he swears on his mother he's done. The controller is asking him if there's any failure initiations. He says, no, it's very strange. So now the controller suggested that he should put the HUD navigation mode into return, or return to home mode, which he's just done. You see the enunciation has just changed on the left hand side. So he's asking if anything's changed. The answer is nothing's happened. So he's suggesting to retract and re-extend the landing gear. So I think he has retracted landing gear, but that's exacerbated the problem. And now he's got told to re-extend the gear, but he said he can't because he got quite a lot of G's. So he's being suggested to use a return to horizon mode. He's asking just to confirm with the wheels down. Bring back to horizon mode is a very common feature amongst a lot of Russian aircraft that you don't generally get in Western jets. It is a button that the pilot can push irrespective of the aircraft's attitude, especially useful for when the pilot is confused, he might be in cloud, no visual reference to terrain, etc. He can push that button and the system will automatically bring the aircraft in the most efficient way back to level erect flight. So the pilot is a little bit bamboozled as to why the controller or whoever is helping the controller is suggesting that he do that, because the system's clearly gone rogue as it is, so he thinks that potentially pushing that button will make it considerably worse. So he's asking to confirm if he should push it. For now, don't. And the pilot says, yep, you think about it. So he's been told to get the speed down to 340, 350, and he says he's going to try it. And then he needs to see what the aircraft will feel like in horizontal flight. Now, there's actually a whole bunch of buttons and procedures that these guys have done that I've skipped through just because otherwise the video would have been too long. But basically, it's always to no avail. They've tried quite a few things, and nothing just seems to be working. So it seems like with the gear down, it's still better. So it's getting some air intake icing warnings. Yes, they're spurious.
Рекомендуют набрать высоту 1500 набрать, отключить бин-1 и бин-2. Бинс-1, бинс-2.
So at this point, the controller is saying that they're suggesting he climbs up to 1,500 meters and turns off the bins 1 and 2, BINS 1 and 2. Those are basically the IRS systems, the inertial reference systems in the Su-35. Right, so he's up on 1,500 and he's now just turned off the IRSs. This looks pretty promising. So he's saying it is holding. A Russian saying "chu-chu-chu." It's like spitting over his shoulder, which is basically knock on wood. So he said he's just starting to turn to come back now, not to fly too far away, but it seems to be working. So unfortunately, it looks like the flight control system is back to its crazy pitching up moment state. So he's getting about 5 seconds of level flight. I think with the gear down, he gets about 5 seconds of level flight before it starts to pitch up again when he rolls out. He's got 1,700 kilograms left out of a total possible of 14,000 for the Su-35. So he's not a huge amount of fuel. It's 3,700, 3,800 pounds. This is getting told to put on the flight control system back to its normal position and not turn it off. So he's coming in for a landing attempt here. He's basically doing these continuous left circles. So he wants to come in so that he rolls out right at the runway threshold, basically, and then just before the aircraft manages to pitch up, he needs to touch down. So it's his first attempt here, and the aircraft pitches up abruptly, so he's got no choice. Yeah, he doesn't want to stall the airplane, take the thrust off, so he's saying he's going to come in for another go. He's all very cool as a cucumber at this point. He is very calm. Coming in for a second attempt here. And same thing happens. Aircraft obviously pitches up abruptly. He's saying if he's going to come in for another go. He says yes, he will. So attempt number 3. He's timing these turns of these circles really, really well to be rolling out right at threshold. And here we go. Here is the external view of the third attempt. And here you see the aircraft starts to pitch up, but of course he deploys the chutes, and it's actually pretty genius what he's done there to try and arrest that. I think he literally had no other choice, so that was absolutely spectacular aviating and really good, really good thinking. Now he's just said he can't steer the airplane, just comes up to a gentle stop here, and I just want to say this is probably one of the most incredible feats of flying that I have seen. Yes, he got frustrated here and there, but generally he kept to school, considering He had such great situational awareness of where he was. I had to cut some bits out of the video that you haven't seen, but he had superb situational awareness, despite the fact that he was a lot of the time he was under G, a lot of the time he was turning, constantly spinning around. One of his hands was constantly fighting against the throttles. Obviously, he has had to try and figure out what the airplane is doing and how it's actually possible to control it, despite the fact that he's got this crazy flight control systems failure without any enunciations. Nonetheless, he has managed to get it down. In stark contrast to the Trevor Jacobs story, this pilot is the exact opposite. He was dealing with a problem that I believe most pilots would have probably ejected in his situation, especially when he went into that spiral dive or flat spin, whatever it was. He's just done a spectacular job. If you guys have any questions, please make sure to comment down below and I'll try my best to address them. But for now, if you guys have enjoyed that video, please do make sure to smash the living daylight out of the like button, subscribe for future videos, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Adios.